The Florida Gators will face the Colorado Buffaloes tonight and should move on to play Sunday.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Friday. I'm Brandon Olsen, and this is not the only time that you're going to see me today, because after Florida plays Colorado, which is going to be a very late game tonight, but after Florida plays Colorado, we will be going live immediately following that game, talking about whether or not the season's over or whether Florida's playing on Sunday. This episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? If you've ever wondered what adventure could be right around the next corner, take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. And like I mentioned, Florida's playing Colorado tonight. And it's kind of an advantage and kind of a disadvantage, which I do like that in a way where there's the trade-off of Florida didn't know who they were playing until Wednesday night, where Colorado knew if they won, they'd be playing Friday, but that they'd have to win the game on Wednesday. Same thing for Boise State. If you win, you know who you're playing, but you have to play a game and you have to win that game. And so for Florida, it's like, well, we don't know who we're playing. It's one of these two teams. We don't know who, though. But at least we've got 4 days of rest between our last games, whereas Colorado or Boise State, had they won, would have had just 1 day off. For Florida, obviously not having Micah Hanlogton is going to be felt on the board, specifically when looking at Florida's offense. Micah Hanlogton was sound defensive rebounder as well, but where he really made his mark was offensive rebound. He had offensive rebounding percentage of, I think, 17.9%, if I'm not mistaken, at least 17%. And that's going to be felt on the boards. Like that's going to happen. And I know that so many people looked at that game or looked at that loss and you went, oh, it sucked to lose Micah. But I've seen so many people on social media and in the comments go, yeah, you lost him, but he's not a scorer. He's not a premium shot blocker. He's not he's not a great floor spacer. Sure. But the amount of points that he generated off of getting those offensive rebounds was huge for Florida. And I understand, again, going, it is what it is, but there were a lot of points generated from Micah Hanlogton getting those offensive rebounds. It was, he had 45 offensive rebounds and putbacks this season. 45. A lot of this was Micah Hanlogton gets the ball and either goes back up with it or kicks it out to someone else who can then get another shot. And so not having Micah Hanlogton will hurt your Florida Gators offense, where for so long we've talked about, since Todd Golden got hired, it's been a big point that Todd Golden wants to win the offensive rebounding battle every single game. You just lost your best offensive rebounder. I am curious to see how it goes, because Boise State, who is still a solid team, but not a team that is as good on the boards as Florida, which again, we'll see how that goes without Micah Hanlogton. But Boise State had an offensive rebounding percentage against Colorado on Wednesday of 43.2%. They had 19 offensive rebounds. Colorado had, if I'm not mistaken, 6 offensive rebounds. So Boise State just dominated them on the boards. And Boise State, good rebounding team, not an elite team there. So Florida could still replicate their we need second chance points and second chance opportunities without Micah Hanlogton. It's more difficult, but you could still replicate it, as all of Tyrese Samuel, Alex Condon, and Thomas Huck are still strong on the offensive glass. I believe Tyrese Samuel and Alex Condon both have an offensive rebound percentage of over 10%, and and Thomas Huck is around 9.3%. So still a lot of offensive rebounds there. It's just you probably have to get a little bit more aggressive there, and guards probably need to contribute a little bit more on the offensive glass as well. One area where I think it really bodes well for Florida is that Colorado typically doesn't create many turnovers. So for Florida, a team that I feel like a lot of Florida fans see the turnovers and kind of tilt about it. And you're right to do that. Florida doesn't generally turn the ball over a ton. They turn it over in really inopportune times and really clutch moments. That's when they make the mistake. So it's not that they're constantly turning the ball over. It's that they do it when you really can't do it. Like that's, which I'm not saying is better, but when you're talking about a team that, or you're facing a team that forces a lot, or that when you're facing a team that doesn't force a lot of turnovers and you have a team that already doesn't turn it over a ton, that gives you more opportunities. And basically what we're going here is that, hey, Florida needs as many opportunities as possible. And so a team that generally, again, Florida generally takes care of the ball, that bodes well for you against a defense that doesn't rip the ball from their team frequently. Colorado's defense is 295th in turnover percentage created. By the way, Florida's even worse at 319th in the country in turnover percentage created. But right now we're talking about Florida's offense. And so for Florida, I do think that this bodes well for you to have success offensively, getting more shots, more possessions, more opportunities there that you desperately need. And as pretty much always, not just for the University of Florida, because I mean, Florida is very guard heavy offensively, but also just when it comes time for March Madness, every year we talk about this, where we go, oh, it's March. What really matters now too is guard play. Teams with good guards make deeper runs. They make further runs in the tournament. It's just what happens. A lot of it is because you're facing teams that you haven't faced before. You're in areas you haven't been before. You're doing things that you haven't had to do before. And so good guard play, the guys who have the ball more than anyone else, that tends to take you further. And so for Florida, a lot of it's going to come down to your guard play, especially when we're talking about who you're playing. Because Colorado also has two very talented guards. And it's going to be that battle, that trade-off for Florida versus Colorado. And that's always been the talking point. We talked about it earlier this week when we had Andy Patton from Locked On College Basketball on here. We've talked about it always, that the Florida Gators and Colorado Buffalo, if they play each other, it's going to come down to guard play. And Florida offensively, you can't have a Walter Clayton 6 for 21 game or a Zion Pullen 4 for 14 game. Like, you can't have those performances. You need to be efficient and effective, and you're probably going to need to put up a good amount of shots, create shots for yourself as well against Colorado. And that's how your offense needs to thrive, really. Will Richard, a couple threes would be nice. I'm just saying, I mean, really, a lot of threes would be nice, but at least a couple threes from Will Richard, Walter Clayton Jr., just something to give your offense even more of a threat and let your guards cook even more. We're going to talk about the Florida Gators' defensive approach to this game because I have a relatively big concern about it. But first, we're going to get a quick word from a couple sponsors. This episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by the spring cleaning champions, Manscaped. This season, make sure to groom your carpets and the drapes with the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Clear out that winter bush with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your confidence bloom like the springtime flowers. Embrace the season and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our special offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for 20% plus free shipping. Like, is there anything else that you could ask for? Their 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard for one taken a little bit off the top, and the new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. Also features dual LED spotlights to guide you through the darkest winter debris. Navigate with confidence in your delicate areas. Get 20% off and free shipping with code LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. Nothing like a little spring cleaning in your pants. This episode of Locked On Gators is also brought to you by Game Time, because you shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event, right? Like if you want to go to one of the tournament games, you shouldn't have to worry about that. Like what if you're waiting for your favorite team? Obviously, here we're all Florida Gators fans. What if you're waiting for your favorite team to advance? What if you're listening right now with someone who is, I don't know, I'm not even gonna name a team, honestly. I'm just gonna throw it out there. What if you're listening to someone who's a Dayton fan and they want to get, that's what we're gonna do, and they want to go to a game if they advance? Oh, you don't have to buy last minute tickets, right? Game Time is the best place for last minute ticket deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, and I love it so much. I'm ready for baseball season. When Kodai Senga's back, I'm going to go watch him play his first game. I don't care who they're playing. As long as it's a home game, I'm going to watch it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And I have to say, for me, I do have I think a pretty significant concern for this game with the Florida Gators against Colorado Buffaloes, and that's on the interior defensively. Because when you had Micah Handlocked, and again, he's not a premier shot blocker, but he was a shot adjuster. You have to go higher because he's taller, 7'1", taller, longer wingspan. He jumps up, he's getting in there. You had to go with higher arcing shots, floaters, whatever it may be. And when you go back and you watch the SEC championship after Micah Handlockton got hurt, and you saw a lot of Alex Condon playing center, Auburn's Johni Broome was doing whatever he wanted around the rim near Alex Condon. He was. The amount of times we saw, and Johni Broome is good. I'm not saying he's not, but the amount of times that he just got into the paint, brought the shoulder down, bullied through, and went up with a shot against Alex Condon. And Alex Condon was like if you were playing 2K, they'd be like, oh, 7% contested. I don't know if you play 2K a lot. It's easy to make those. So with that and Johni Broome doing that against Alex Condon, it gives me some cause for concern, especially when you look at what Colorado has with Eddie Lampkin. And if you're not familiar, Eddie Lampkin, big dude. just letting you know that Eddie Lampkin is a giant human being. Okay. So and he was from TCU last year, but 6'11", 265 pounds. And honestly, he's stout build wise. So for Florida, I'm looking at what Johni Broome did to you. And now I'm looking at Eddie Lampkin and what he did against Boise State. He was very effective underneath. He's another one of those I want to shoot from right under the basket kind of bigs. And again, Johni Broome had a lot of success against Alex Condon doing that. So I have some concern when we're talking about how Florida is going to play defensively on the interior, especially with Colorado. Their guards get to the rim. Their guards get to the rim. They get to the free throw line fairly decently, fairly frequently, and they convert a lot of those opportunities. They're one of the best free throw shooting teams in the country right now. So they have two guards that get to the line, again, very often. They do. KJ Simpson, Tristan De Silva, they both get to the line frequently. Eddie Lampkin is going to work underneath the basket. They're going to get the ball into the interior. And if you aren't willing to meet them with the energy that you need to meet them with, you're going to be in for a really tough time. So for me, that is a concern, because not only are you worried about, the guards are getting to the rim and getting to the free throw line, or, Eddie Lampkin is getting to the rim and getting to the free throw line. Not only are you worried about the points that you could be giving up there, but also the fouls add up really quickly in college basketball. Imagine we're 10 minutes into the game, Alex Condon has 3 fouls. You're already thin at big man right now. So fouls could add up, and you don't want to be stuck playing small against them. Because again, their guards are going to get into the paint, and they're going to try to get to the free throw line, and their bigs are going to get to the paint, and they're going to just try to score it. If you foul him, you foul him. So I will say that also, because we talk about getting into the paint and everyone wants to talk about Colorado. They shoot extremely well from three. They have the 8th highest shooting percentage from three, or the 8th highest 3-point percentage in the country right now, or going into the tournament. We'll see what it is whenever they actually play it tonight, because things will change. But the 8th highest 3-point percentage in the country going into the tournament. They attempt so few. Like yes, they convert on a lot of their opportunities. They're shooting 39.1% from three, but they have they're 323rd in 3-point attempts per field goal attempt, which 3-point attempt is something that Todd Golden does value a lot, or 3-point attempt per field goal attempt is something that Todd Golden values a lot. Theirs is about 30.4%. Florida's a little bit under 35%, and Florida would like to be higher than that as well. It's just when you have Zion pulling driving and Tyrese Samuel dunking, a little bit different there. But for Colorado, they don't shoot for threes frequently. They're very effective. They weren't as effective against Boise State. They struggled a bit finding their rhythm, especially early on. I think they started 0 for 4 from three against Boise State on Wednesday night. But they don't want to shoot them out there. And I feel like this is one of those games where you kind of have to make them shoot. Like sit in the zone if you have to. Figure something out where you're essentially going, how will you hold up shooting-wise with volume? Because you shoot really well from three, but you don't shoot from three often. So try to make them prove it with volume early on. And if they back it up, then you're going to have a different conversation. But if they don't back it up, then keep making them do it until they prove to you that they can do it with any sort of consistency. Also, offensively, Colorado turns the ball over a lot. That's something that Colorado, it's hindered them the entire season. It's one of the reasons that they kind of folded in the Pac-12 tournament. They turn the ball over a lot. They turn the ball over 18.2% of the time. Florida, really bad at creating turnovers. Florida's, they create turnovers 14.5% of the time, which is 319th in the country. They're really bad at forcing turnovers. However, generally, I like to just think of this as it's going to kind of meet in the middle when we have these gaps. It's a 4% gap almost. It's going to meet in the middle and probably be around 16.3% there. I'm fine with that. If you can create some turnovers, and when you create those turnovers, you create points in transition. Colorado is one of the slower tempo teams in college basketball. So if you're going, all right, we're going to have our regular up-tempo offense, they turn the ball over, we make a quick play, we make a quick score, quick layup, three, whatever it is, and then they're back on offense again. They want to go slow. If you can create a little bit of separation early on and they need to pick up the pace, they're not going to be as clean as they've been offensively. Like that's one way that you got to do it. And also, they're probably going to be like, all right, we need to rely on more threes a little bit more frequently. They're one of the slower tempo teams that turn it over a lot. If you can create some havoc for them, it's going to make it harder for them to keep pace when you're going up tempo. You're creating turnovers and points in transition. It's going to be real difficult for them. So I think defensively, you just have to be a little bit still smart, so you're not fouling, but a little bit more aggressive when we're talking about actually creating those turnovers and trying to make plays, specifically off ball in the passing lane. If you can make a play there, run away with it, get a quick layup, whatever it may be, you're going to make life hell for Colorado to try to keep up with you. We are about to talk about what happens if the Florida Gators can advance tonight, but first, a quick word from Nissan. This week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest, just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs. These guys are able to take it to the next level. Auburn Tigers are who I'm going to give a little bit of credit to here, just a little bit today. They can only be described as a pathfinder. They've been thrilling to watch. They're fun to watch. The 10-man rotation is not something you see frequently in college basketball. Their defense is fun. I'm always going to be a defensive guy. So their defense is fun to watch. It was hell for Florida. I mean, we saw it happen frequently. They just kept switching things up and causing havoc there. They created a lane for themselves after claiming the top spot in the SEC, but now they have to play in the East region. So congratulations, you beat Florida in the SEC tournament, but you also put yourself in the region from hell. Good luck, Auburn. You're probably going to run into a buzzsaw at some point. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure at shopnissanusa.com. To wrap up today's episode of Locked On Gators, the Florida Gators, if you beat Colorado, which I still think you should, after everything that we've talked about today, I still think that it's fair to look at that and say Florida should win this game. And I don't think that that's I don't think that's far-fetched or homerish. Like, Florida's the favored seed here. Ken Palm has Colorado winning this game by 1. They've been wrong before. They'll be wrong again. Hopefully that's tonight. But if Florida wins, they will face the winner of 2-seed Marquette or 15-seed Western Kentucky. Let's just go ahead and say that Marquette's probably going to win, but it's college basketball. Anything can happen. And so we're going to talk about both. Both of these teams are shockingly slightly more up-tempo than Florida. One of the fastest teams with adjusted tempo. They're one of the fastest teams in the entire country. And like, Florida's 18th in adjusted tempo in the entire country, which is wild to me. Western Kentucky, adjusted tempo, fastest team. The fastest team in the country is Western Kentucky in adjusted tempo. That's wild, considering, again, Florida is one of the most up-tempo teams. So going, okay, well, we're going to play, because also when it was Boise State or Colorado, it's like, okay, either way, Florida's going to play one of these slower teams in the country. No matter who wins, Florida's playing one of the slower teams. Now, if Florida wins, they're playing one of the faster teams in the country, no matter who wins. And obviously, look, Florida is a better team than Western Kentucky. I don't think that's far-fetched to say. They're a decent matchup for Marquette. I know that I've seen a lot of people, pretty much once the bracket came out, I saw a lot of people on Twitter go, oh, like Florida's a hell matchup for Marquette. I understand it, but also maybe. Like, I don't want to just go, oh, yeah, Florida's hell from, like, it's a winnable game for sure, and Florida matches up decently well. And if Florida had Micah Handlogton, I'd be way more in on, oh, Florida is going to win this game, or Florida has a pretty damn good chance of winning this game. Marquette almost always wins the turnover battle for 2 main reasons. One, they're really good at taking care of the ball, and they're really good at creating turnovers. It's not just like they do one or the other really well. They do both really, really well. Like near the top in the country there. That's kind of what we're talking about. Where they're a damn good basketball team. And obviously, but they have the 28th highest or 28th best turnover percentage, the 28th lowest turnover percentage in the country, 20th highest turnover force percentage in the country. They do a really good job of creating turnovers. And that's kind of the trade-off of where the main reason that people say Florida is a really good matchup for Marquette is that Marquette's a bad rebounding team. They are. They're just bad at rebounding. Offensively, defensively, they're not good at it. However, for me, the reason I go, oh, Florida's a decent matchup is that Marquette's really good at winning the turnover battle. Florida, they're good at taking care of the ball. They're really bad at forcing turnovers. So if you're already really bad at forcing turnovers, and now you have to play a team that doesn't turn the ball over, tells me you're not going to create many turnovers, right? And you're pretty good at taking care of the ball. They force a lot. You're probably going to have a slightly worse game than usual. They're probably going to have a slightly worse game than usual there. So that's where I'm like, all right, yeah, like I understand going, oh, Florida's really good at rebounding. You get more rebound opportunities than you have turnover opportunities. But still, it's just one of those things where I can't just look at it and go, oh, Florida's a hell matchup for them, because I don't agree with it. And also with Marquette, one thing that I will say about them also that I think does kind of bode well for Florida is that they don't get to the line frequently. Like they shoot a lot of twos. They don't get to the line a ton. And so I think that if you're Florida, you're looking at it and you're like, all right, well, at least we're not going to be too concerned with foul trouble. Western Kentucky, they shoot pretty well. They do a pretty good job of preventing offensive rebounds. They're not like this amazing team. I'm not going to talk them up as if they're an elite program. They're 133rd overall on KenPom, and they do turn the ball over quite a bit. So that's one area for Florida where you have to try to take advantage of it. But again, they're one of the better shooting teams. They create more turnovers than Florida does. Most teams, the huge majority of teams do. They do a pretty good job of preventing offensive rebounds, which again, for Florida, that's been a huge selling point for why you've been able to make it to where you've been able to make it so far, is just in that exact area of offensive rebounding. Western Kentucky, they get in foul trouble. That's one area where you can kind of try to take advantage there. But Florida's a better team than Western Kentucky. They're a good matchup, not a great matchup for Marquette. No matter who you play, if Florida makes it past Colorado, the second round is a very winnable game for you. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tonight to talk about the outcome of Florida versus Colorado, no matter where the cards may fall. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Giants, Country at NFL 33, and I will see you all next time.